Hello and welcome to the RPG Academy podcast. My name is Michael, and I'm joined tonight by co-hosts Tom and Kevin, and we are going to do a review of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, the newest Wizards of the Coast 5e hardback. So, Tom, say hello to everyone.
Hello. You can't just say like this is Tom and Kevin, Michael. There's like a billion Toms and Kevins. Okay.
Well,
So, but
that's
for
why I'm then
those,
turning it over to
okay,
you.
okay. I see. I see. I should have just went with that. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, you all know me. This is Tom, co-host of the RPG Academy. You could follow me at BezCardTom on Twitter. Yes, Mandalorian Metal Tom on Twitter. And yeah, we're gonna talk about this thing.
Excellent.
That's all
All
I
right.
have.
All right, and then Kevin, say hello to everyone.
Hey everyone. Some of you may know me. I have had previous ties with the RPG Academy, but I haven't really done any content for a few years now. Not even on my own blog, which is Melvin Smith's Geekery. If anybody ever wants to look up some old articles, but Michael and Tom kind of reached out to see if I wanted to kind of get back in the game to talk about this book because we kind of got it around the same time, and I was more than happy to join in.
I'm always happy to have you part of what we do here. Again, for anyone who might be new, there was a long-lived RPG Academy network, which was a baby of mine that unfortunately I had to let go a couple of years ago. But we had a collection of bloggers, other podcasters, and such that we were working with, and Kevin was a part of that, mostly because of his Twitter handle. Because once you like Eberron, you're in my heart, no matter what. But I appreciate you having us on and or joining us for this, and always happy to have you on anything we can do.
Well, thank you very much, Michael.
So, Tom, you're generally the master of ceremonies when it comes to our review episodes. So, talk a little bit about what we're going to do here tonight. Maybe give some overall thoughts of Tasha's.
Okay, perfect. So we are here to review the latest and greatest supplement from Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. It is Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It is the latest players resource primarily. There's some Dungeon Master stuff, but it's for basically this is a book for everyone who wants to play the game. So what is this book? It is like I said, this book, it's like a lot of consolidation of rules, and it has been created by the in-house D&D team. So you have the lead designer here is Jeremy Crawford. So this is not something that's been outsourced to a bunch of people like we've seen with the adventures. This is all of the unearthed arcana and a lot of the stuff that's been included in previous books that they're bringing together finally. So this book, it comes in 2 covers. You have the regular. All right, which cover do you all like? We have the one cover that is the regular cover. It shows Tasha with her spell book over the cauldron, and then we have the alt cover by Wiley Beckert.
Okay, so I think that the art looks better on the standard cover, but I love the look of the alt cover because it stands out with that sort of cream white look.
Oh yeah,
and it's just striking, and I really like that. So actually, I would have preferred the art of Tasha on the white cream cover. Would have been a perfect blend, but I think they both are really cool, so I'm happy with either.
Kevin,
Yeah,
thoughts?
it's a difficult choice. Usually with these alt covers, I like one or the other more. And honestly, it's a little bit of a step away from what they've typically been doing. Like a lot of the alt covers have been very linear and very kind of sharp contrast. This is very flowy and very mystical, which kind of lends itself to Tasha's kind of witch background and sorceress and everything like that. So, but I kind of agree with Michael. It's hard to split the baby on this one. I like them both a lot for different reasons.
For sure. They're both super great. Wiley Beckert is a fantastic artist. They do a ton of stuff for Magic the Gathering. So Wizards is pulling into their wheelhouse, their strengths here. So, but this book, it contains stuff from Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. You've got stuff from Eberron, Rising from the Last War, Mythic Odyssey of Theros. So they mentioned right at the beginning, like, hey, this book pull stuff from there. There is something from Ghost of Saltmarsh, which I'm going to get into, but they don't say that Ghost of Saltmarsh is in here, but it's in here. So, and then what else we have in this book? It's comprised of 4 sections. We have your character options, which is the major chunk of this book. We have group patrons, which is a carryover from Eberron, arising from the last war. We've got your magical miscellany, so your magic items and your spells. And then we have your dungeon master's tools. And then the one other section that is right at the beginning of this book is a section about using this book. It's 2 pages. And what I need to stress here is that they say right off the bat, this stuff is optional. Okay, so it's not like it's just rules that you can throw out. The stuff in the player's handbook you need to have. This stuff all builds upon what's in these other books. It's stuff that it's these blocks that you can add on to your game to make it more complex or more interesting. And then also there are these 10 rules to remember, which I think are super interesting. I'm not sure if you all read them, but these are basically 10 things that people have struggled with 5th edition since the beginning. And one of the ones that I want to point out, just give you all an example of what these things are. Rule 3, advantage and disadvantage. It just says that even if one factor gives you advantage and another gives you disadvantage, you only have it once. So it's not like they're stacking and they just cancel each other out. So there's these really very firm rules clarifications that are right at the beginning, which I thought were great. Did you all have any thoughts about this?
I actually did not read those, so
Okay.
my apologies.
Yeah, Tom, you hit the nail on the head with that one. The only thing I read in the beginning was the note from Tasha, which was kind of a charactery flowy piece that's typical for me to go to.
Oh, for sure. Kevin, then you know what? So since you didn't read the 10 rules, tell us about Tasha. Who's Tasha?
Oh, so Tasha is she's been around since pretty much the inception of Dungeons and Dragons as this character, one of the like prime spellcasters. I mean, her name is attached to certain spells in there, and one of the coolest things about her is her training under I'm blanking on the witch's
Baba
name.
Yaga.
Baba Yaga. I don't know why. I mean, just a character from folklore that has been beautifully placed in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, just this. I mean, Baba Yaga is such an unknown, such a powerful entity, and to know that Tasha had a tutelage under her, I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, super cool character. It's one of my since I'm a relatively newer Dungeons and Dragons player, so I'm coming in it. I can't started with 5th edition, so I'm starting to. I just thought Tasha was just like these random spells that were like included like in the player's handbook, and then like I'm like reading this book, I'm like, oh wait a second, I guess there's some deeper stuff here, and I dug it. So I did think the whole Tasha's lore and her little notes were actually pretty cool. I enjoyed them more than I did Volo's or the stuff that was in Morning Cadence. So thought her stuff clicked with me. She's much more
I would
edgelordy.
agree.
So.
I don't know how much of her lore was invented in this book and how much is pieced together from some of the past items. I'll admit to not having a full like knowledge of her, but until like really delving into this one. I knew that her name was attached to some spells. I mean, we used Tasha's hideous laughter to take down a dragon at one point in time.
The worst spell. I hate that spell so much as a dungeon master. You're gonna take my really cool scene and ruin it. Okay. So, but anyway, that's the basically overview of this book. It's about 190 something pages, so it's relatively brief, but it is chock full of stuff to use. And a majority of that stuff is in this first chapter, which is character options. So, Kevin, why don't you give us an overview of this chapter?
All right, so character options. I mean, this is by far the largest chunk of the book. I mean, it takes up 79 pages of
It's a lot.
Anything. I mean, and most of it is dealing with recaptured and new subclasses for different classes throughout the Dungeons and Dragons universe. But there is this small chunk in the beginning that's really kind of interesting where they discuss customizing your origin and possibly changing up some skills and different things like that, which hasn't really been touched on in Dungeons and Dragons before. I mean, it's always kind of been this static, if you're a dwarf, you have a plus to strength and a plus to con, or a mountain dwarf. Or if you're a high elf, you have your intelligence bonus, your dexterity bonus. I mean, it's always been very static, but something they kind of switched up in this book is they give you ways to change that up, because honestly, at the end of the day, the player character is your character, And as long as you're not doing something that breaks the game or more than anything ruins the fun, like there's no reason why you can't switch things up. I mean, who says that an elf can't have a really high constitution? Maybe they spent more time in the woods than another elf or something like that. And I just thought that was kind of a neat little addition. Something that's kind of been bandying around Twitter and some other social media lately is the idea of these static racial bonuses and how, I mean, some people found them to be a little bit limiting and they addressed that. Moving on to the subclasses, though, which take up the largest chunk of these pages, encompassing pages 9 through 77. I mean, we have just a dearth of different character options here, some of which are found in the books that Tom discussed. Ravnica, Theros, Sword Coast. Some of these are just pulled from there and kind of compiled into this one book. Some
The
of us
Artificer. We get the Artificer.
from Eberron.
That's
Yes,
right. So
my
they
favorite
finally
little
include it.
system. And that leads off. I mean, the Artificer is they didn't really switch that up too much. There's a couple little new things there, but they pulled that from Eberron. They have new classes or new subclasses for Barbarian Bard, the whole list, and then leading into feats. Plenty of new feats to be had. A lot of them sort of, a lot of them are, oh, you know, I'm blanking on what the feat additions are. Sorry, guys.
There's a lot of, so I will say, since we're talking about the feats, since you mentioned the feats, I want to bring them up now. So I'm going to jump the gun a little bit. So
Sure.
I love feats so much, and I was glad that they included some of them in here. And I picked out I got 3 of my favorites. Okay. So I love the fact that they have a chef in here, but all right. So we all know encumbrance stuff and actual like survival in 5th edition is terrible. So in eating food and sustenance and whatnot, it doesn't make any sense. Most people just ignore it. But what I like about the chef feat here is that basically the chef can create snacks, which are basically health potions. So basically it gives players this really cool incentive to take a non-traditional feat. So I thought that was really cool. Like you're a chef. That's awesome. Also, there's a feat in here called Shadow Touch where you just get to become invisible. All right. And how cool is it? Like I'm just like envisioning this edge lord that I've created, and my feat is Shadow Touch. I just turn invisible. Like I'm super cool. I love it. I got a very nice, pleasing aesthetic scar across my face. Like I love it. So lots of cool feats here.
Yeah, I wanted to touch quickly on what Scott was talking about, the ability to manipulate your quote unquote static bonuses for the race choices that you would make at the beginning. And not too long ago, we did a review, and I think I'm blanking a little bit on the name. It was like maybe Ancestry Awakened. It was
Yes.
something that we reviewed, which took this to a much higher level. It was third party, but it got a lot of traction. I really liked it as well. That gave you a lot more full customization. So this is sort of in my mind like a pared down version of this. But a lot of the discourse that I've seen more so on Facebook and Reddit is that a lot of people are unhappy with this because they feel like it's a min maxing tool, and that people won't play certain races because without getting, like, if you can get whatever bonus you want, then why not play this race instead of this race? My response is okay. Like where's the negative there? If I want to
Yeah.
play a dwarf because I like the flavor of the dwarf, but I want to play a dwarf wizard, then my dwarf happens to be really smart, or whatever the case may be. Is it really game breaking that I can have a dwarf with a plus intelligence instead of a plus con? No. And again, I know I'm probably preaching to the choir between you two, but not since I was like young as a gamer did I pick a race because it gave me a bonus in a specific slot. I don't do that. I pick a race because of the flavor that I want to tell my story through. To me, that is completely a non-issue. I know for a lot of people it seems to be, but to me, it's just like, I don't understand.
Yeah, it's funny when I started reading it, to me, it felt extremely weak. All right. So there was this common complaint that you kind of said about people felt pigeonholed with different races and that they felt like there was this whole idea that like, yes, dwarfs and orcs, they just hit stuff. They're not intelligent. So when I first started reading this, I was like, this is really weak, but honestly, it's the most simple solution to fix the problem. And it honestly, I think it works. Um, and if you're at a table where you really do just want to have wide open the ability to create any character you want, it's still balanced here because the way that they have it, you're either clicking +1 and 2 or +2 and 1. So at the end of the day, it's balanced and it works. Yes, it may be simple, but sometimes the simple solution is the right solution. So yeah. So there's definitely, I was expecting a lot more here. There is only like a page and a half about this stuff. So, but
Uh, Something that kind of reminded me of was, I don't know if either of you read kind of the clerical quintet revolving around Candlekeep, but there was a dwarf by the name of uh, Peikel Boulder Shoulder, and he was different in that he was a dwarven druid type. Like he conjured the shillelagh, he had a green beard, he was a bit of an oddball, and kind of, but I always found that to be kind of fascinating to have someone go against the typical class choices with a race. And I would do that constantly with my own characters. And this just makes it a little more fun to do that. That way, like the people who want to kind of min max, because you have them at your table, now they can also choose the races that they want to play while they're doing their min maxing stuff. I mean, it's going to happen anyway. Might as well give them all the role play options they can get.
for sure. Yeah. So, yeah, I know, Kevin, we derailed you a ton there, a ton there. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about is there's so much stuff to talk about here in this section. So we're not going to talk about everything, but just know that for every single class in 5th edition, it includes new subclass options. So every single class gets new subclass options. So what we're going to each do is we've picked out our favorite class to talk about what's included here. So you know what? I'm going to mix things up because I feel like I've done a lot of talking. Michael, go ahead and go first here.
All right, and so I'll just clarify, this isn't my favorite class because I chose the monk, which I don't know that I have played a monk more than like once in the 30 some odd years I've been running games and playing games. But of the ones that I was looking through, I thought this one was really cool, so I wanted to cover it. So when you're talking about the monk, it gives you 2 options for class features. So this is just whatever type of monk, whatever flavor you want to use. One of them is called dedicated weapon, which allows you to basically, I think you spend a key point and you can quote unquote attune to a weapon that now counts as a monk weapon. It still has some rules. It has to be simple or martial. You have to be proficient with it already, and it can't have the heavy or special properties. But it gives you the ability to have the monk with maybe a weapon that you don't think of as a monk weapon. Again, we're talking about flavor here, where it's like, I want to use this weapon because I think it would be cool, but rather than having it be, a worse option for me for the min-maxing or just optimization, now I can make it a good option, if not the best option for me. And I really like that because it gives me, again, role-playing chops without necessarily also giving me a mechanical detriment. They also have key-fueled attack. And basically, you can spend a key point to make one attack with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon. So if you put those 2 together, you can basically get a bonus attack with the weapon that you are now proficient in because of your other ability. They don't have to stack, but they can.
So we're giving monks more attacks here. Okay,
because
great.
that's what they need. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
They also have quickened healing, which gives them a chance to spend some key points to get additional hit points back, and then focused aim. You can spend some key points to get bonuses to a particular roll. 1 point of key equals a +2, up to a +6 total. Then we have 2 new subclass options: the Way of Mercy, or sorry, they're called monastic, or was it monastatic? How would you say it? Monastic. That's the way. Monastic traditions. That's right. You have the Way of Mercy, which I just thought was okay. Basically, you're a healing monk, but you also walk the line of knowing how to heal as you kill. And so you can do things that will let you end someone's life or give them health by punching them, which I do find that's probably the most interesting thing, is that you can spend key, and in the middle of your flurry of blows, one of those can turn to a healing strike, which in my mind only makes sense if you're like adjacent to an enemy and an ally. So you're like punch, 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 and then like you just do like a jab off to the right to punch your friend in the guts and give them a +5 hit points. I don't quite get that. But the one that I really liked is called The Way of the Astral Self. And I think Keven kind of mentioned, the flavor of Tasha. Throughout the book, we have these little notes as if she had written in her journal, and we're reading these. And in this particular section, she wrote a note that says, "Note to self, create a spell that lets you throat punch with your ghost." And that's what this subclass allows you to do. So the first feature you get at 3rd level allows you to manifest astrally projected arms in addition to your arms. And you can do things with these arms. In particular, you can punch with them. And you get a reach bonus. So you can unarmed strike with these astral arms 5 feet further than your normal reach. I thought that was cool. At 6th level, you get Visage of the Astral Self, which allows you to call up like a astral helmet that goes over your face. That gives you some benefits, including astral sight, wisdom of the spirit that lets you use, or you have advantage on wisdom and charisma insights, or word of the spirit, where you can basically communicate directly with a person or a creature that you can see through this visage. I'm sorry, going back to the arms of the astral self, it also allows you to use your wisdom modifier for things like strength saving throws, which is kind of fun. Then at 11th level, you get body of the astral self. And basically, this is Iron Man armor. You basically manifest a coating of armor all the way around you. So you get the helmet, you get the arms. You also get some benefits like deflecting energy and empowering your arms. And then at 17th level, you can basically cause this to be a little helper bot. So you manifest an entire physical form that slides off and out. It has its own actions that it can take in addition to your own, which I think are really cool. And one of the things I really like is there's a little sidebar that your astral projection is a creation of your id. That means this is like what you see of yourself, and it doesn't have to match your physical form. So you could be a human with dwarf arms and a dwarf visage, or it could be a lizard person visage, or it could be a dragon visage. It can literally be anything you want. It doesn't matter. But I love that flavor of that, the arms I create or the head piece I create or my whole body create is unique to my particular monk, and it can be anything I want. And I just think that's a really fun thing. So if I were to play a monk, I'm probably going to play this one.
Cool. Yeah, I'm never like, I don't know if I would ever play a monk. It's just not I'm not like big into like rolling a bunch of D4s. But that I mean, if that's your
D4s for
thing,
life.
if that's your thing, man, go for it. So, all right, so mine. All right. I picked obviously the best class in 5th edition, which is
Wizard.
the Warlock. The Warlock.
I think you mispronounced Wizard.
Okay, yeah, Warlock. We all know that when you want to play an edgy character who can do anything and is so much is a DPS hog, you'll play a Warlock. Okay, so we get some really cool Warlock stuff here. So we're gonna get a new patron, all right, which is the genie. And then we're also going to get a new pact, the Pact of the Talisman. You know what? Also, we get 2 patrons. We also get the Fathomless. Okay, so but let's talk about the Talisman. All right, this is the ultimate support class character. The whole concept of this talisman is that you have like a talisman your patron gives you. You can literally give this talisman to anyone in your party, and they're going to get certain benefits that you can give them, such as now they can teleport. Now they're going to get to roll extra D6s or D8s when they're doing their attack. Now they're gaining health. Oh, now they get to roll a D4 for all of their skill checks or for all of their saving throws. So you also get these benefits. These are all through evocations, lots of new evocations. But it's a super, I'm a big fan of this talisman character. So like, for example, like my favorite thing is, like I mentioned, the bond of the talisman. It is the ability you give your talisman to someone and then you can teleport them to you at any time, or you can teleport to them. So it's this really cool. I'm a huge fan of the Warlock who can just go around the battlefield however they want. It's just, to me, flavor wise, I love it.
So, question to interrupt you, but I have to ask: do they have to attune to it? for this
No,
to
no,
work?
no, no,
So
no. This is the warlock has the talisman. I just give it to somebody. Now they have the talisman.
well, what I'm thinking, my first thing that came to my mind here is that you give it to the rogue. The rogue like reverse pickpockets it, puts this talisman on someone, and then later you can teleport into like the inner sanctum of like a castle or a keep or something.
Yeah, potentially. It just says that when someone else is wearing the talisman, it's not a willing creature. So
They have to be
there you
wearing it
go.
though, but still, yeah, okay. Sorry, again,
Yeah.
that was just the first thing I thought. I was like, that could be a
No.
really cool
You see,
situation to
this
create.
this is Michael. This is why Warlock's the best because there was something in here. You're like, all right, yeah, this is cool. I'm gonna potentially use this. So super cool and new. Packed the talisman. Then we get our first patron. We get the Fathomless. So I guess if you're into tentacles, like this is cool. Like it's like a tentacle patron. Like Tasha's got a little like thing in here about like, oh, don't be making fun of people who like tentacles. Like, have you ever had like squid and Geekery? And it's just like, no, this is made for the tentacle people. Like it's it's okay. It's kind of boring because everything you have to be around water. So I guess if you're dealing with a water campaign, that's cool. But honestly, folks, you heard it here. Skip the Fathomless, or yeah, just do it. Okay, because you have the genie, which is the all right. The patron is a genie. You get a lamp. Okay. This is amazing. So if you pick the genie as your patron, so you get a lamp, and you have the ability to go into this lamp, and it says in here that it's like a posh place. Like it's got cushions and pillows. You have some tea and coffee. It's awesome. And then what's even cooler about it, at 10th level, you can take your entire party into the lamp with you. So you guys just have a moving base, just you need to take a long rest in the dungeon, just tuck your lamp behind some rocks and just everybody go in there and take a little quick rest. It's just flavor. I love it. It's so cool. Plus you're getting these elemental powers. So depending on which type of genasi you pick as your patron or genie you pick as your patron, you get their elemental powers. So it's cool. And then also then at level 14, you have a limited wish ability, which basically allows you to just cast super high level, like or 6 level spells, just like none other, which is really cool as a warlock. Uh, so lots of cool warlock stuff here. The one other thing that I definitely want to talk about is that there is this new thing called the Eldritch Versatility, which allows you to change your warlock stuff a lot more. So it's a new warlock feature that you get at 4th level. So if you're like me and you are always change your evocations, like this is cool. The other thing which I don't think I mentioned, there is this thing called there's a feat called the Eldritch Adapt, which basically allows any class to now pick Eldritch evocations. You get 2 of them, which is wild. And then even if you're a warlock, you can take this and get 2 more evocations. So that's incredibly powerful as a warlock. My one big gripe with this is that there are no evocations for Pact of the Blade. So I'm a little salty there, but I will forgive them for giving us 5 pages of warlock content here. So
Nice.
I like it. So anyway, I've just waxed profusely about warlocks. Also, they include a picture of a tiefling. I get it. Everybody loves tieflings, but we've seen enough tiefling warlocks. Give us some more ASMR warlocks, okay? That's all I ask for. No more of these devil people. I want some of my angel boys. Like, just give it to us. All right. Anyway, that's all I have there. Kevin, what do you got for us?
Well, first of all, Tom, I'm picturing a talisman being handed to some royal that you're wanting to rob later as a gift for them to wear.
It's so good. It's so good. Chef kiss there. Oh man, that's
Or a
awesome.
lamp being handed to someone.
There's so many good. There's so many. Like I said, talisman and the genie are just super cool. They're great for flavor, and then mechanically super powerful. Lots of battlefield manipulation, teleportation, lots of extra d8s you're adding to your melee damage. Super cool stuff there.
All right. Well, personally, I dove into the druid, which is not traditionally a class that I play very often. But I recently had the opportunity pre-COVID to play a Circle of the Spores druid. I played a Tortle who was a Circle of the Spores druid, had the fungus growing on his shell, everything like that. It was a whole lot of fun. So I was happy to see that Circle of the Spores is one of the subclasses that was included in this book. Now, that one, I believe, is from Ravnica, but they were kind enough to place it into the character options here. And I won't delve too long on that one because it is one that people may have already seen in Ravnica. But Circle of the Spores thematically is one of my favorite druid subclasses out there. You basically, as it sounds, you become one with the fungi of the earth. You have just a halo of spores that's just constantly kind of surrounding you. It's this invisible necrotic energy that is harmless to anyone else until you wield it yourself. And then you have like, you can get the symbiotic entity. You can, when you deal your halo spores damage, you can roll the damage die a second time and add it to the total. Melee attack weapons can deal an extra 1d6 necrotic damage. I mean, it's just having fungus help you out can be just a really interesting addition to a character. And I, especially like I said, when I was the Tortle, I had the fungus growing on me at all times, took on this persona of someone who's not necessarily afraid of death. Like it's just a natural part of life, very druidic stuff, focusing on end of life in nature and kind of decomposition.
Yeah,
Some of the higher, what's that?
I was just gonna. The fungal infestation is like one of my. I love that so
Oh my
much.
gosh, the ability to use your spores to like basically be a necromancer,
Oh yeah,
bring something back to life and animate it using your fungus. Like it's so creepy, but it's like you can see this kind of druidic character who it's like, well, that body's not being used. Why should I let it go to waste when it can provide utility for us at the moment? It's just nature using nature, you know. And then of course you get to the higher level stuff where you have your 10th level, which is spreading spores, which gives you the ability to just seed the area with deadly spores that you can use your symbiotic entity as a bonus action to hurl them 30 feet away, swirling in 10-foot cubes. I mean, it's just you start dealing some pretty good damage with it. I mean, I have a buddy of mine who does a lot of wild shaping and everything like that, and he kind of pointed out like there are areas where you can deal more damage with that, but I don't know, I just like the thematics of something like this. And I said I wasn't going to go on forever about Circle of Spores, but here I am doing it anyway. So I might as well end things up with the fungal body, where the fungal spores, they're in your body, they've completely altered you to where you can't be blinded, deafened, frightened, or poisoned. Critical hits count as normal unless you're incapacitated. I mean, you just become a harder being to kill, this towering fungal creature. But druids also have the benefit of being one of the only classes in the book that have two new subclasses that have been finalized from Unearthed Arcana and brought to the book, being the Circle of the Stars and Circle of Wildfire. Now, Circle of Stars is all about your attunement to the heavens, constellations, using starlight as sort of a power for you. Your starry form that you get at second level, it's a bonus action, and then you kind of take on this starry form yourself rather than wild shaping into a beast or something like that. And you can choose a constellation to sort of gain benefits from your starry form. You have the Archer, which will help you with some of your range spell attacks and arrows that you have. The Chalice is a constellation that actually gives a little bit of a life-giving appearance to yourself. You can regain hit points for someone using some of the abilities with that. And then there's the Dragon constellation, which makes, let's see, you have a when you make an intelligence or wisdom check or constitution saving throw to maintain concentration on a spell, you treat it a roll of 9 or lower on a d20 as a 10. So a little bit more of a spellcaster thing, a little bit more protection. And then you move on to into some of the other ones. You use star maps for omens under the cosmic omens at 6th level. It gives you abilities when you roll an even or odd number on a die with special reaction. Whenever a creature you can see within 30 feet of you is about to make an attack roll on an even roll, you can roll a d6 to add a number to that total. So you're actually helping out some of your players on your team. The woe roll, which is the odd roll, is just the opposite to subtract from some of the enemy characters. And you can use this reaction as many times equal to your proficiency bonus. So the Starry form it's an interesting form. It goes into a point where, much like the Circle of Spores, when it taps out at 14th level, you basically become just somewhat incorporeal. You have resistances to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. It just kind of makes you a beefier person. And then Circle of Wildfire. Oh, sorry, Tom, you were going to say?
Oh no, what level do you get that at?
That's at 14th. That's the top. The one that I skipped was the 10th level thing, where it basically improves your starry form, giving you a couple more bonuses to all of the constellations that you can run down. And then and it also, when you choose the dragon at 10th level, if you choose the dragon constellation, you can actually get a flying speed, which is pretty incredible. Kind of makes up for the fact that you can't shapeshift into a flying creature.
A dragon?
Yeah.
It only makes sense. They would let the player transform into a dragon, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really thematic, but I ultimately I kind of find it's a little underwhelming, but it is kind of nice that you have options within options. You know, it's one of those things where you can kind of change it up within some of the sub options anyway. Circle of Wildfire leads with a quote from Tasha that I particularly like, where she says, "I can't tell you how many times I've burned everything to the ground and started over." So, I mean, this is like a evocation style form, something that you don't always see with druids.
For sure.
I mean, druids, but if you think about it, I mean, a wildfire in the forest can be a renewal. So it does stick with the theme of a druid. It's just in a way that you might not think. So the spell list gets a lot bigger on this. You start getting some of those flaming evocation spells like Burning Hands or Flaming Sphere. You have Flame Strike at 9th level spells. So although unfortunately I don't see that Fireball gets added to that spell list.
Good for wizards for not doing that.
I mean, it'd be a pretty potent addition. Probably a little bit too much, but you do get Scorching Ray, which is I've always liked that one. That's pretty powerful. Yeah. Or and then like with this one, you can summon Wildfire Spirit at 2nd level, which is kind of a primal spirit that's bound to you. And you know, you have this little spirit flying around. They include the monster box right there on the page, which I always appreciate. And it seems like it's basically a small elemental. I mean, armor class 13. Its hit points adjust with your level, which is nice. So that it's not just like an animal companion that a ranger might have. Like if they have a wolf, but the wolf ends up having 15 hit points all the way up to 10th level, you know. This one adjusts with your class, and it can be pretty damaging, especially starting at 2nd level like that.
Nice. Sounds like
Uh,
they did some reskinning of the Artificer's battle companion.
Yeah.
yeah, that does seem a little bit familiar.
Yeah,
I think
for
my next
sure.
character is going to be a Circle of the Spore, though, just so I can always make the "I'm a fun guy to have around" joke like
Stop.
all the time.
Stop it, Michael. As you're one. You got no more.
Oh no!
Okay.
Every game is going to be like it's the fun guy as I go
Gosh.
into the battle.
This is why we don't play together.
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much.
All
Yeah.
right. So, all right. Fantastic. Lots of cool stuff here. And like we may have just talked about a lot of stuff, but we have just this is like
Oh,
scratching like the surface here.
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't even get into like they have cantrip versatility here, which is a lot like the evocation versatility that you were talking about for your warlock. I mean, they have all sorts of little things. I mean, you can even summon familiars now as a druid.
wow.
That's another little character feature.
So much stuff here.
Yeah.
So the one of the things is the next section is the
Well,
group patrons.
hold on.
Okay, hold on. Go ahead, Michael.
Because I want to do just like a quick sort of overview for everybody, just in like the
Oh,
section.
yeah, I should have read the outline here. Okay, let's do this recap, Michael.
So I just again, as you said, Tom, we've just barely scratched the surface on all this, but I just wanted like sort of like for this section, like what are our overall thoughts? So I'll start as I mentioned before we start recording. I don't pay attention to Unearthed Arcana. It just isn't anything that interests me. So everything in this section was new to me. I had no idea any of this existed unless it was again in another book. And overall, I really, really like this stuff. There were some things I liked more than others, but there wasn't anything that I read that I was like, oh, that's bad. I wish that wasn't an option, which I would never do that anyways because it's optional. I just wouldn't use it. But yeah, I actually very happy with this section. I thought it was very cool. What about you?
So I like this. All right. So I talk about how much I'm not a rules person, but I do like how certain rules stack together. This is a min-maxer's dream here. There are so many powerful things here that you can take, and there's a lot of stuff that isn't powerful. But I think that they've just included so much content. You're gonna find something in here. Like, for example, Warlock includes 3 massive new things. So even if like the Fathomless doesn't work for me, the Genie really does. So there's something in here that you're really gonna like. My other thing that we haven't talked about it is the art. So there is no repeat art in this book that I can find. There is some. No, I take it back. There is some for the Artificer that they pulled, but for the most part, every single class has some new art. It's awesome. I'm all for it. So I enjoyed this. I'm not. I'm never gonna read like I didn't even read the wizard stuff because I hate wizards so much. But like,
It's
this
okay
is
that you're
me.
wrong about
My
that.
opinion. My opinion. All right, but I like this stuff. This is cool. The paladin stuff is awesome here. So lots of stuff to like here.
What about you, Kevin? Overall, what did you think of this stuff?
I'm a huge fan. I way back in third edition, the completes, though I don't know, I'm sure you guys remember those books.
Nope.
They well, for me, like complete fighter, complete wizard. I mean, this just evokes that same kind of energy. Just having all of these options just right there. I mean, those were always like a wonder for me to behold. Like, look at these brand new options for me. And because this book also includes a lot of brand new subclasses as well, stuff you may have only seen on Unearthed Arcana, or if you're like myself and Michael, have not seen because I don't usually pay attention to that area. It's nice to have. It's nice to have the items pulled from other books so you don't have to jump around, and it's nice to have the new stuff. It's tinkering around with characters, even though I'm a role player at heart, is still a lot of fun for me.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So,
So-
sorry, Tom. Now you can take us
No,
forward.
no, for sure, Michael. Thank you for keeping me on track. All
Yeah.
right, so group patrons. Okay, this is pulled directly from Eberron. This is this whole concept that was included with Eberron Rising from the Last War, but it has been vastly improved. And this is not to say that the stuff in Eberron was bad, but they've added some really cool stuff here. But my big complaint here, all right, they say it's group patrons. All right, we already have a major thing that is called a patron in 5th edition, which is the Warlock patron. And this is nothing like that. And it's just confusing. Like, come on, let's get some brand like cohesiveness here and like come up with a new term. Okay. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox about terms.
Put
But
an E in there, make it Patreon.
Patreons, your group Patreons. So, no, what the patrons are is it basically provides this glue for the players. So, if you have a group of players who, and I would say like some newer players, especially, this works great for, and you want to find something that collectively drives them, these are great. So, it includes 8 of these basically groups that all of your players will belong to. These groups are an academy, an ancient being, aristocrat, criminal syndicate, guild, military force, religious order, or a sovereign being. What these include then is it includes like these are certain for the academy, for example. It'll say like here's some academies that you can belong to.
I like the sound of that one.
There you go. Okay, yeah, yes, I picked this one on purpose. All
Yeah.
right, so you have some academy perks. These are some things that here's some benefits for joining an academy. Here are some people that you may know in an academy. And then here's some quests that you may do on an academy. And so each one of these different patrons includes these certain sections. So it's only 20 pages long, but there's a lot of fluff here, a lot of things for players to really grasp onto. And I think you can really create a cool story here. Um, I love the aristocrat so much. Like the perk here is that you just have the ability to when you travel in luxury and excessiveness. So you basically get to go around town. You have like unlimited money. Your aristocrat patron is just paying for the finest hotel rooms, the best restaurants. Like you are the adventurers who are living high on the hog here. It's super
Tom,
cool.
why would you need that if you have a lamp?
What's that? So yeah, I like excess. All right, we need excess. Okay,
He needs
when
his
you
lamp to be carried in a posh carriage driven
yeah,
by like
exactly.
8 white horses.
I need a pauldron for that. All
Yeah.
right, so yeah, so there's some cool stuff here. Did you guys have any? Do you guys have any thoughts about this section here?
This is something I've done on occasion for campaigns just before this existed. Just trying to start a game with a common goal or organization that the players start with. So I actually would say this, if anything, is more of a DM tool than a player tool. I think
Yeah,
it gives players option, but I think if you're a DM that struggles with how do I get my players together, if you're we all always start in a tavern and there's a fight and that's why we're together, this could be a good avenue to start with to say, okay, you're all part of the same organization. That's why you're together. And now we can start off on this adventure. So I think it's a cool addition. Don't think every game needs it, but I think some DMs would probably benefit from asking their players to say, let's start this campaign
hmm
using a group Patreon.
for sure. Patron, not Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon.
We all have Patreon on the brain.
I'm adding,
Okay,
oh, no, I'm doing that on purpose. I'm adding a need to differentiate it for the Warlock for you.
okay, for sure, Michael.
Yeah.
Kevin, thoughts on?
I feel like this section was kind of just shoehorned in to add a little extra to the book.
Yeah,
It does take the concept that was originated in the Eberron book and sort of makes it setting neutral, which I appreciate. And this could be a good tool for some DMs, especially some of the early, like starting DMs who might need a little help with, just like you said, bringing their players together. On the last page of it, they talk about being your own patron, which is something that I've done in the past. One of my longer-winded campaigns was set in Sharn and had the players basically running their own sort of like not necessarily almost like a private investigative firm, and they were their own patron and they had a couple of employees and stuff like that. I mean, you can never have enough for the players to kind of do on downtime, in my opinion, like because some of that can be some of the most unique kind of fluffy stuff that really kind of builds characters and builds relationships, is just having something to do that isn't just swinging a sword or casting a spell. So the being your own patron area was kind of interesting to me too.
yeah, I will definitely. That's a good point. Definitely agree with you that I feel like this is shoehorned, but I think it's so that this is like they're trying to include all this disparate stuff from all these different books, and this was stuff that
Yeah.
was included in Eberron, so they just threw it in there. They changed it from Eberron, which was good. And it's fine. I think it's cool. I think it's great for new players and new GMs. I don't know if I would necessarily use it, but you know, it's cool. It's there. It's not bad.
Hmm.
So there you go. But that leads us into what is my favorite chapter, chapter 3, magical miscellany. All right, here it is. Tasha's Cauldron of everything. this famous witch. We're finally getting into spells and magic items. Okay, so we have 21 new spells, only 1/9 level spell. Okay, 21, only 1/9 level. It's only okay. We'll talk about it. All right, and then but lots of summoning spells. So if you're into that, we're gonna get them here. And then we get magic items. 47 new magic items. Unfortunately, 10 of them are tattoos and 13 of them are books. So if that's your thing, then you got plenty of stuff here. Lots of cool stuff here. Kevin, kick us off. Did you tell us your favorite spell and what was your favorite magic item?
So I I think that I'm a little different from you guys because my favorite spell is a cantrip. I
Okay.
think you guys may have chosen a little higher level spells, if I
Oh
remember
yeah,
correctly.
I chose the cantrip as well.
Oh, never mind. Well,
I chose
Michael and
like a
I
super
are
high level
of the
spell.
same mind. No, my cantrip that I chose was Mind Sliver. I feel like this could be a nasty little booger. This thing is psychic energy, which is it's interesting that they added a little bit of the psychic in this book. They're toeing the waters with the psychic stuff, and I like it. I want to see more of it. But this is a disorienting spike of psychic energy that you drive into the mind of a creature. They do get a saving throw on it, intelligence based, which isn't always, that's not always, it depends on the creature, but intelligence isn't always a strong saving throw. And if they failed this, so if they, whether or not they fail it, they take 1d6 psychic damage. The thing that makes it a little potent is if they fail, they subtract 1d4 from their next saving throw. So not only does it make it easier for you to hit them with another mind sliver if you continue just hammering them with him, but it sets up, like, spikes the ball for a couple other characters if they're doing stuff that revolves around saving throws as well. I mean, you can really kind of start debuffing some enemies with this, especially for a cantrip. I thought it was kind of very utilitarian.
Yeah, it works well, like if they do have like a high con, so you hit them with a mind sliver to give them a negative D4 on their con saving throw that the other character will then throw at them to sort of combo up, and I like that synergy aspect.
Yeah, you're thinking exactly the way I was going with it. Utility, not utilitarian. Utility.
Nice. Yeah, definitely cool. Like, I love good cantrips. Like, they're just so versatile. So having good ones is cool. So I'm gonna change this up a little bit. I'm not gonna let you talk about your magic item, Kevin. I'll talk about the rest of our spells. Okay. So that makes more sense to me. Let's talk about some more spells. I picked a high level spell here. I picked a 7th level spell, the Dream of the Blue Veil. All right.
Ooh.
So here's the thing. So me personally, you know what? It's just so weird. I love warlocks, but I hate like traditional spell casting
It's okay
because
that you're wrong about that.
yeah, it's so like I feel like it's so cumbersome in combat, but hey, whatever. But I love these big, flavorful story spells. Okay. When I look at spells, I think of like you have your spells that are, you got your fireball, roll all those dice. Then you have these spells like Dream of the Blue Veil. What this spell does, basically, you and up to 8 other people go to sleep. You have a dream of another world. And then after the spell is completed, you and these up to 8 other people are transported to that world. And it calls out. It's like you can go to Toro or Kern or Eberron. And so these are these spells that are like, hey, let's change our campaign, but keep the same characters. And this is just a super cool way to do it in the narrative. And I love that. And then there are also there's a whole like sidebar as far as traveling to other worlds. I love that stuff so much. I think it's super cool. Uh, it's really like that's this. I love these kind of spells, like just these really deep. They don't really have a lot of mechanics to them. Like they're not meant to be a balanced spell. Like you fall asleep with some of your friends, and now oh boom, now we're at Eperon, guys. Like let's go find a Warforged to hang out with. Like it's to me that's I love that stuff. So it's a high level spell too. So
So
it's cool.
how many people or how many characters can be included?
Up to 8.
So I like
Up
that
to 8.
could be like an NPC that
Yes.
not takes you there for a particular reason. That could be a lot of almost like a fetch quest that spans the multiverse, or
Yes.
Oh wow,
Yeah. So
I
it's
like that.
cool. I love this kind of stuff. So big fan of that.
All right.
Michael,
I'm
what's your
gonna
spell?
take things right back down to cantrip level. Because I play mostly one shots low level, so I'm never going to get to a place where that spell matters. I chose Lightning Lure, which is an evocation cantrip. And basically, it's the get over here Mortal Kombat Scorpion spell. You can take a flash of lightning energy to a creature you can see within 15 feet. It must make a strength saving throw, or it moves 10 feet in your direction and then takes 1d8 damage if it is now within 5 feet of you. And like most cantrips, that spell goes up as you level. But I really like the idea. Basically, you're moving a creature directly to you, but there's nothing to say that your character couldn't be, I don't know, flying and you're like 15 feet over a cliff edge and you pull it out into the open. Or you could have something in front of you, like a couple of your friends, and you pull them directly into like a flanking position. There's just, I like the aspect of like, how can I manipulate my position so that by pulling you to me, that's more beneficial than just you moving 10 feet? Because I said, as long as you can see them and they're within 15 feet, so you could be behind total cover except for a peephole, and you could just like smash them into the wall that you're behind or something. I just think that's fun. So I took Lightning Lore.
It's funny you mentioned that. I'm losing it now as far as this is not the first time lightning lore has shown up. I don't know which book it's in, but Alex uses lightning. He's a storm sorcerer. He's a storm sorcerer in our Ghost of Saltmarsh game. Lightning lore is his main spell. Like, so that I've seen this used a ton, and it is an awesome spell in combat. And he used it just like you kind of said, Michael. Like, I've got this super cool NPC, and Alex is just like, yeah, I'm gonna use my lightning whip and make him come over here, and we're all just gonna punch him.
Yep.
But yeah, super cool. I love that spell. It's so good.
I don't know why I'm picturing two spellcasters side by side, one using Lightning Lure and then the other one immediately using Thunder Wave to just drive them into a wall, like pull, drive, pull, drive. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I'm dying now trying to figure out where that is because it was published before there and it's not in Saltmarsh. All right. So the magic items. All right. So Keven, what was your favorite magic item here?
All right, I actually went. I feel like the devotee sensor. It isn't. It isn't a real sexy item. It's pretty bare bones, but I like the theme around it. It's a flail. It deals an extra 1d8 radiant damage on top of that. But the thing there, it can be counted as a holy symbol, which is always nice. But the thing that I really liked about it, the very thematic thing, is as a bonus action, when you speak the command word, it emits like an incense surrounding you, like a smoke, kind of like what you see in Catholic rituals in our world. And it's this incense that kind of fills up the area and 10 feet around you for a minute. Whenever a creature starts its turn in that incense bubble, it can regain 1d4 hit points. Now, this does say creature, so it could be friendly, could be non-friendly. But if you kind of set yourself up as this central character in amongst like a group of friends and you kind of have it working right, you can really be kind of boosting your friends constantly. Sure, another creature might be able to slip in there, but I like the idea of this kind of smoky substance just sort of filling the battlefield. And who doesn't like
cool.
who doesn't like a flail? I mean,
Yeah.
those are always fun.
Yeah, I like that because there's not that many. This book does not have a lot of weapons, which is my big complaint. I love magic weapons. I feel like there's not enough of them. So the flail, though, it was a super cool inclusion here. I really do like that flail. For
Well,
cleric, it's
and
awesome.
a lot of times when you do have a magic weapon in 5th edition, it's a super overpowered, you'll never get your hands on it type thing. This one's just rare. I mean, it's difficult to come by, but it's a weapon your character might come across and the DM's not going to consider it game breaking, So that's always really nice to see.
Yep. Meanwhile, you're picking. I went for the only legendary tattoo in this book. All right. So the Blood Fury tattoo. Okay. So I'm reading into these tattoos and I'm like, okay, whatever. They're okay. Then I got to this thing called Blood Fury tattoo. And I just want to make a character that has something called a Blood Fury tattoo. All right. So it's super edgy. Okay. So it's got that going for it. And then here's its power. Okay. If you hit somebody, you just get to roll 4d6 necrotic damage. Like, okay, like that's awesome. My warlock pact with the blade like just got even more powerful. And then here's what's even cooler. If somebody hits you, you roid out and you get to then just attack them with a melee attack. So whenever you're attacked, you can expend a charge of your tattoo to just hit somebody. Like I would, as a dungeon master, I never want anyone to have this at my table, but as a player, I want it like now. It's so cool. And also even the flavor of the tattoo, it says that you get this tattoo and then they have to all right, so all right, hit the skip button for the next 30 seconds if you're squeamish, okay? Because they take the needle and it goes into your skin and then the needle itself becomes the tattoo as it transforms into ink. So, like, it's very cool.
So this reminds me of like in high school when you'd like punch your buddy in the arm and then they would turn around and hit you so hard in return. Like they like
Yes.
way, the retaliation is way outsized the initial offense. But you actually left out when you hit with the damage, you actually get hit points back. You get temporary hit points equal to the damage.
So it's
you
even
dealt.
more powerful.
Yes.
It's awesome. All right, Michael.
So
what you got?
I took another tattoo as well. I think the tattoos are a cool.
They're cool. I like
they're
them.
a cool thing. And again, I went more versatile. I took the Ghost Step tattoo, which is a very rare level magic item. All these tattoos require attunement, which is basically the process of getting the tattoos. You kind of mentioned that there's a, that you have to have someone give them to you type of thing. But this allows you 3 times per day to go into ghost form. So you basically get 3 charges. You can expend them as a bonus action. They are all refilled at dawn. While you are in ghostly form, you're incorporeal. It lasts till the end of your next turn. You have resistance to basically your standard attacks and non-magical attacks. You can't be grappled, can't be restrained, and you can move through solid objects as if they weren't there. You could, as if they were difficult terrain. So you like float through walls and all that kind of good stuff. And I just like this more because you can activate it as a bonus action. It could be almost like a defensive thing where maybe you try to flee, someone uses a reaction to hit you. I think this would work. Then you can use your bonus reaction to try to get away from that, or just as a defensive measure. I like it more there. If someone's trying to hit you with their big, powerful weapon, you're just like, boop, sorry, can't. And I think that's fun.
I like the tattoos. They were originally introduced in Eberron, and I'm glad that they introduced them here and that they added some. So, big fan of those. So, in general, then, Kevin, what did you think about this magical miscellany section then?
I always love new spells. You can add new spells anytime, and even if they end up being a little less exciting or not, I just like having options to page through. And the magic items, it is kind of sad that we had such a dearth of tattoos and books and not a lot of other ones, but it's still, I mean, what is it, 47?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Magic items. It's a lot. And it's still nice to have a whole bunch of new items out there, because I mean, it was a big deviation from the way magic items were handled in 4th edition. I mean, magic items were a must-have. You had to have magic items as you leveled up. It was just something you gained. And to go back to 5th edition, which is almost an overcorrection in my eyes, where magic items are so rare sometimes and so difficult to come by that it almost makes it a little difficult for DMs to figure out how to divvy those out to their players. It's nice to have a couple more options there.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. Michael, what'd you think?
I'm never going to use them anyways because I don't give magic items out in my games. So no,
A shame.
But I do.
5th edition's the fun for him.
very, very rarely give out a lot of magic items. I'm very stingy when it comes to that. But I like the idea of magic items that are more versatile, that give you fun strategic options rather than just this lets me hit harder or hit more often. So I like the flavor on a lot of these.
So So I liked the spells. Like there's so many cool spells we didn't talk about. Such I love Sword Burst, the ability to just create spectral swords all around you. It's very cool. Spells are great. The magic items, that's like my bread and butter. I love them so much. I give so many magic items out. It's not even funny. Like I give so many magic items out that players forget that they have magic items because they always have new ones that they're using instead. Like I love them. So, but that said, these magic items in here are not the magic items that I really like because they're very complicated. These are magic items that have like 4 or 5 paragraphs written about them. So much stuff. I like the simple stuff. That's one of the things I really like the Blood Fury tattoo. It's very, very simple. It's a paragraph or two, whereas you have this thing called the Demonomicon of Igwilv, which is like a whole page. And it's not even it is an artifact. So never mind. It can deserve a page. We got 6 artifacts here, but we've got a lot of books here. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of differences between them.
Right. Well, but the thing I would say here, though, I think that can be somewhat not the word. Confusing is not the word I mean, but I'm going to use it because I can't think of the word. But confusing is that okay? We're adding, let's say, 13 books, but realistically, in a campaign, you're probably only going to have one of them.
Yeah.
Like the DM's going to pick the one book that they think would be the most fun for their campaign or for the particular player. So even though this book has 13 books, really you're adding one per campaign. Maybe a couple more if you're someone who gives out a lot of magic items like you do. So it doesn't bother me that there's a whole bunch because it just gives the DM that many more options to pick from. I would suggest if anyone's listening, don't just throw all 13 books into a campaign like together.
It's a
Say,
quest.
pick the one you want type of thing. Put one of them in there.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 level later, put a different one in there. Dole them out sparingly, and I think they'll feel more special. But when you read them all together, yeah, it seems like why do we have so many books or why do we have so many tattoos? I think in the game they're going to feel and work differently.
We're just all gonna have like super cool, edgy librarians running around. All right, so no, I get it. Also, like they wanted to include like some stuff for like wizards. Like this is Tasha's Cauldron of everything. The front cover shows her with a book, so it kind of makes sense that that's why they're including
Yeah.
them. But I would have enjoyed some more magic bows or spears or whatnot. But with that said, the stuff that they include, these are not very like simple magic items. These are like very, very unique, very everyone has its own lore, some very powerful stuff here. So overall, I really did like it. I just thought I wish there was a little bit more diversity here in the types of items that they included. Okay.
Fair enough. All right. And so our last section is our DM's tools section. It encompasses basically 50 pages or so at the end of the book. And there's a lot of stuff in here that I particularly like because I have a passionate I have a passion around session zeros. It's kind of become sort of like a bellwether topic for me. I talk about it all the time. I think it's super important, and I like the fact that they gave some advice here about session zeros. We also have some information on sidekicks, which we've seen before. I know from the Essentials kit. I don't know if they're from anywhere else as well. There's a section on parlaying with monsters. There's a section on supernatural regions and how those might have like global effects that the characters will have to deal with, as well as magical phenomenon. So again, you have like a magical storm and how does that affect the environment? Natural hazards like avalanches. And then there's a section at the end on puzzles, which I will note comes with the solutions. There was a book recently, I think it was Mystic Odyssey of Theros. One of the areas included some puzzles, but they didn't tell you how to solve them. They were just like setups. So I like the fact here they actually gave you puzzles with solutions as well. But the section that I wanted to talk about is parlaying with monsters. Because I actually think that is it's something, again, I like to try to find ways to use monsters that aren't just, we need to hit this thing until it stops moving. And this sort of codifies that idea that sometimes the best thing to do with a monster is interact with it other than trying to hit it with your weapons. It gives a bunch of different types of monsters, so like aberrations, and suggested skills that would be used to help determine what this creature might want so that you can then maybe gain its favor, calm it down, get into like a parlay situation. So like aberration, you would maybe use arcana to determine what it wants. For a fae, maybe arcana or nature. For an ooze, arcana or survival, so on and so forth. And then it gives a bunch of example desires. So these are tables that the DM can either choose from or roll from. So if they are interacting with a construct, for example, and they decide to try to, can we talk to this thing? You would use Arcana to see if you can figure out what it would want that maybe you could negotiate with. And then there's a 1d4 table for constructs. Maybe it would like some oil because its joints are getting rusty, a la the Tin Man from Wizards of Oz. Maybe it wants a magic item that has charges that it can use as fuel, and that it's almost like feeding it, just like you would maybe like a bestial creature. Maybe it wants a vessel infused with elemental power, or maybe it wants adamantine or mithril components. So there's a bunch of different types of monsters: beasts, celestial constructs, humanoids, undead, so on and so forth. It gives you skills that you could use to maybe figure out what they want, and then it even gives you a little bit of a table that would help you determine randomly what it might want. But I like the fact that it's telling DMs, again, because in my mind this is always aimed at newer DMs, that hey, you don't always have to put things in here that are just to be killed. Yes, combat's fun. Yes, combat is a part of the game. But I personally find a lot more satisfaction in maybe this is something that we can talk with, get it to help us. Either maybe it fights for us, or we can bypass that combat. I find that more satisfying and gratifying. Keven, what section in the DM's options did you find interesting or useful?
So I went with sidekicks. It's one of those areas where I've been kind of thinking about it because my kids are starting to really want to play Dungeons and Dragons. But things being the way they are, can't really have their friends come over and play right now. But this might be a way, instead of creating 2 full player characters for them to play each, so that they have to deal with like their fighter character and their barbarian character or something like that. Sidekicks actually create a way for them to have a little bit more power in their pocket, and gives them a little extra character to play around with. And plus, it's just kind of fun to think of, some helpful characters to run around with them. Not nearly as powerful as the player characters themselves, and you can do a little bit of role play with them as the dungeon master, or lend some of the role play to the player characters, depending on what the comfort level is there, and maybe even have something around to be awed by the player characters in some of what they can do. And also, they can be really useful. I mean, the expert is one that I always found to be really interesting. This might not be a sidekick that is going to lend much in combat, unless like maybe they're standing at the back, like flipping through some scrolls or something, and like shouting out some information about this crazy ooze that the players just ran across in the middle of the dungeon. And maybe this guy happens to be an expert on oozes, or maybe she could help you out with some sort of shambling mound that you run across. It's kind of interesting to think a little bit differently than just combat awareness and stuff like
Well,
that.
again, the expert kind of marries well with parlaying with the creatures. Maybe the expert's the one who has the skill they need to realize the shambling mound is X, Y, or Z, and then again, it's a quest to be fulfilled, not a creature to be overcome.
Absolutely. And I love that they can level up with the player characters too. Become a little bit more powerful in their own right. And become, maybe some powerful NPCs that they don't always use, but when they do, here they are, ready and willing to help. So sidekicks, they lay them out pretty well here. They've got their own proficiencies, they've got their own features. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a major improvement because they were originally included in the Essentials kit, and they were very, very lackluster there. So this was definitely a huge improvement over that. So I was glad to see that here.
I love the artwork in this section too. You have like, I mean, look at that. You've got like a turtle with a cane and
Yes.
stuff like that. And you've got like a little impish creature there, a winged kobold, and some of the other sidekicks. I mean, these are some of the most fun little characters that I've seen in the whole book. Like
Yeah.
they're just different.
Since you brought it up, I will say this. The art in this book is great. I think I already mentioned it that there's no repeat stuff here. It's just throughout this book is fantastic art. Really good job here. So, go ahead, Michael.
Well, say so. If you want to wrap up the DMing, then we can get into that. We'll talk about the arts.
So one of my notes here was for my section. I want to talk about the environmental hazards because what they include here is we have these 15 environments. So these are environments that you run into a lot within a fantasy role-playing game. So your haunted environment, your planar environment, your ocean environment. And each one of these sections includes a fantastic piece of art to just really give some inspiration. What I love with this is that each one of these sections includes a D100 table. All right. So we have talked so much about how we love Forbidden Lands on this podcast. And one of the reasons that we love that so much is because of all of the random charts for different environments. And these are now, it's pulling something that I love from other games into Dungeons and Dragons, which is this whole idea of you enter an environment and then there's all these different things that can happen within that environment. And it takes something off of my shoulders as the dungeon master to be creative here. I got so much stuff on my plate. I just roll a D100. Oh, now there's a ghost that all of a sudden appears in this haunted house that wants your blood. Like that stuff is, to me, there's lots of content here. So I love these environments so much. And also, I got to talk about it. Here's my Ghost of Saltmarsh stuff. So they include Eldritch Storms. All right. These first appeared in the Ghost of Saltmarsh book, and we have included these already in our game where basically one of the storms is a necrotic storm. So basically all of a sudden pieces of like zombies start raining from the sky as part of this torrential downfall or like a blood storm. So there's all these different things that they include that you can just use to make your current scene more interesting. So I was a big fan of this section here.
All right. Very cool. So at that point, I think we can kind of move into the end here, just do our overall thoughts and our scores and everything. So Tom, do you want to take back over and lead us through that?
Yeah, so the first thing, Keven, first time being on a review here. So the first thing that we want to talk about is the fluff. Okay, this is the flavor here. Did it interest you? So let's talk about what you think about the fluff within this book, the story stuff.
It's a very fluff light book. But that's by design. I mean, Wizards has been creating these incredibly in-depth adventure campaigns that have necessitated tons of fluff, great story setups and NPC backgrounds and things like that. But really, other than delving into a little bit of Tasha's background, you're just not getting a lot of fluff there. And that's kind of expected with something like this.
So then on our very scientific C to A+ rating scale, where would you put this?
Oh boy. As far as fluff goes, I'd give it maybe a B-.
Okay.
Because the fluff that's there is good, but there just isn't much of it.
Yeah. So I will agree that for me, the fluff that's there I thought it was very cool. Like the Tasha stuff, the little tidbit. I got more out of her notes here than I ever did out of Volo's or Morning Cadence. They were just so much more interesting. I love them so much. So I'm going to agree here. It's not a fluff oriented book. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to give it a B- too. But with that said, it's good. What's included here?
I agree with both of you, though. I actually, in my mind, I give it a little bit more leniency to some of the mechanical bits give you role play flavor, and so I'm sort of leaning into that. So I'm going to say B+. And then I'll cover it when we get to the art part. So B+ for me for fluff.
Okay. Well, Michael, since you started talking about it, before we get to the art, we're going to talk about the crunch. Okay. So where would you put the crunch? What'd you think?
I mean, that's what this book is. I mean, again, it's the opposite of fluff. It's all new mechanical options for all the character classes. It's new subclasses, new feats, new spells, new magic items. I mean, to me, this is an A+. This is what the book is supposed to be, and I like pretty much everything in there. There's things I like more than others, but there wasn't anything that I'm like, nah, I'll pass on that. So for me, it excels at what it's trying to do. So I'm going to say A+.
All right, A+. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give it a B plus here. All right. So the reason I do that is I don't I don't get any sense of cohesiveness here. All right. There are things here that are very powerful, and there are things here that are very weak. With that said, I don't think everything necessarily needs to be 100% balanced. I think you pick what you want to play. But so with that said, I definitely think we're going to see a lot of people dipping into a lot of the we're going to see a lot of more dips into monk and warlock, I think, with this book being out now, because I think that there's some very powerful stuff here. Um so I think what's here is it's good. It's a lot of stuff. And I will say that the one note that they give at the very beginning is very important. This is optional. So, dungeon masters, if any player wants to use one of these things at your table, or if they say, hey, I'm multi-classing with something from this book, double check with them and just kind of just talk about it and make sure that it's not going to absolutely destroy your table. So you're going to have to be very careful with this book. So that's my thoughts here. Kevin, what'd you think?
So I'm sort of going between A minus and A plus. I think I have to land solidly on an A minus, just because I mean this book, like it's crunch. Like that's the essence of this book. I think that people are going to come to this book for the player options, which makes up most of the book, and that's the best part of the book. Um, the new spells and the new magic items. There's some good and some bad in that area. Well, not bad, but there's some things in there that feel like they might have just been added to add more. The patrons. I almost said Patreon. Thanks, Michael. The patrons were added, and like I said, it felt a little shoehorned in. It doesn't feel like it has any connection to Tasha. But it is a cauldron of everything. So it's kind of an amalgamation of a lot of different things. And I think that's where the minus comes in. Just because, you know, it does, not everything gels together perfectly. I do feel like the DM's tools, the new stuff there is really well thought out. Some good DM's tools, some very interesting things there. A couple parts in the middle that seem they're not bad, they're just a little bland. So, but A minus, I mean, that's a great rating in my eyes.
So, my last thought here, every single person definitely needs to now take the feat that allows you to take some warlock evocations, because then you, especially as a spellcaster, because you get the one thing I forgot to mention, the Eldritch Mind, you have advantage on all of your saving throws for your concentration spells, which is
Good
like,
grief.
yeah, I know. So like that's what I'm saying. Like there's some stuff here. Like if you're not careful, like and if you have a player who's really good
Yeah.
at min maxing, they are going to be coming to the table with an absolute god. All right. So
Well, there's the telepathic feat. I mean, you get all the player characters at the table who take the telepathic feat, and they can all talk to each other in their heads. I mean,
that's
it's really cool. I like it, but it's definitely powerful.
yeah, lots of good options here. All right. So let's talk about the art and the overall layout of this book. Kevin, what'd you think?
I mean, the art's great. I've loved all of fifth edition's art. I think that Tom, you've mentioned a couple times the redundancy sometimes that you see in some of the books, and I didn't even notice it until you said it, and I've been flipping through it while we've been talking. Like there's pretty much none. I mean,
Yep.
it's all brand new art, and they've been knocking it out of the park with the art in fifth edition.
So
I really do enjoy it.
so C minus to A plus?
Oh
Where'd you
yeah,
put
that's
it?
right. I have to give it a
You got
rating.
to give it a rating. We're all about
Um,
metrics here.
I feel like I need to reward the fact that they went with fresh art throughout. I mean, I got to give it an A plus. I mean, I love the artwork. It's good. I love these big page spreads of Tasha
Yeah.
playing chess with Mordenkainen.
It's so
I
good.
mean, things like that. Like she has a chat with one of the devils or demons, and just kind of like leaning up against the glass, showing you how powerful she is. That the devil's even talking to her as an equal. I mean, it's great thematic art.
So There, I will definitely agree. I'm gonna go ahead and give this an A plus. Okay. So because I have since fifth editions came out, like the middle part of fifth edition, there were so much repeat art, and it was so annoying. Every single book had the exact same Aarakocra and Kenku. Like it was brutal how much they repeated. Like there's like 3 books with this Aarakocra in it. So I can only find 2 pieces of repeat art, and that was with the Artificer. And I'm going to give him a pass on this because the Artificer was only in the Eberron book, and you're introducing it here. And these full page spreads of Tasha are just so good. And one of the things, Tasha evolves throughout the book. I don't know if you all noticed this. The very first picture of Tasha is her just sitting at Baba Yaga's hut as a young girl talking to some fairies. And then I think the last picture of Tasha is where she is like talking to this being in another dimension. So throughout the book, you'll see Tasha progress and becoming a more powerful wizard. And so I thought touches like that were super great. Also, all the classes are laid out in a very easy to use way where each subclass has their own little piece of art. So it's these little things like that that were great. So I'm going to give this an A plus. All right, Michael.
So I also really liked the art as well, and I had 2 in particular that I wanted to call out. The first was the one that Keven already mentioned, which is the one with Tasha playing chess with Mordenkainen. And my favorite thing here is if you read the caption, it says Tasha prepares to win another game of wizardly chess against her rival Mordenkainen. But if you actually look at the chessboard, Tasha doesn't have a king. All she has is a queen and a knight. So she's cheating. Like, how does that work? Because if you look at Mordenkainen's sign, he's got a king who's hiding behind the queen because it's like a wizardly version, so they're animated pieces. Think like hollow chess on Star Wars. But she definitely is cheating. That's the only reason why she's winning, and I love that. But if you look, and that was page 138. But if you look at page 167, there's artwork here about the mimic colony.
Yes.
And so if you look, it's one of those things where the longer you look at it, the worse it becomes. Because everywhere there's like the teapot's a mimic, the flower pots are a mimic, the chair's a mimic. And then you realize, wait, they're sitting inside of a mimic. Like a giant maw surrounds them. So not only, like literally everything in that picture is a mimic. And I just thought that was really cool. So those are my 2 favorite pieces. I love the art, A+.
Yes. Okay. So this is it then. We all love the art. So our final thing, let's give a final score. Okay. Michael, we're gonna so Keven, we're gonna give you get a chance to think about this. We're gonna start with Michael. You're gonna finish us off. So Michael, overall.
Solid A. I really like the book. There are a couple things with it I think are a little bit odd. Like I personally feel like they only added the DM stuff in there so that DMs would buy it.
Yeah.
So that when their players wanted to use the stuff in it, they would have a copy so they could review it and allow it or not allow it. So I kind of feel like the DM stuff, while I actually think it's great, it feels tacked on to this particular book because it doesn't really thematically fit in my mind. But I'm glad they included it. But it does mess with the theme a little bit. But I still like the book. But it is optional. Keep that in mind. Solid A for me.
Okay. So when I first went into this book, I was very classic Tom. I was like, well, they're just recycling stuff. But then I started to realize like why they're recycling it. It's so people don't have to go to like a bunch of different books. And so that I really appreciate. And I'm going to go ahead and give this book an A. All right. So the reason that I want to give this an A is because if you go look at Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide and then you look at this book, we have come so far as quality goes for player books. This is great art, so many player options. I think that if you are playing Dungeons and Dragons, this is like if this is your system that you like, you have to buy this book. So A for me. Keven, what'd you think?
All right. I almost wish that I could change things up just to be a little bit different, but I got to give it a solid A as well. The book, the only problem I have with the book is I could have had more. Like I feel like the book could have included even more, but that's just my own selfish desire because the stuff in there is great. even the stuff that we kind of commented on in comparison to other sections of the book seem a little bit bland. It's really only when you're holding it up to the other parts of the book. It's
Yes.
I mean, it's a great book. Solid A.
Yeah. I think we all like this one. So it's a good book. Plus, it's great covers. Love it.
Yeah, and I guess I should say we should have done this at the top.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy, you have to remind me. We did get press copies sent to us, so I got a copy of both. I gave Tom one of the two. I of course kept the alt cover. Kevin also got a press copy sent to him. So we were given press copies from Wizards of the Coast. We should mention that, though. Hopefully, people who listen to this should know by now that that's really not going to overly influence our opinions. Because when Tom doesn't like stuff, he'll tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Go listen to our Eberron review. I slammed that art so hard. Like, oh, Kevin, if you're a big fan of Eberron, don't listen to that, man.
Well, and the
Okay.
descent,
Oh, no,
the
I
descent
am right
into
there with you.
Avernus.
I've been seeing the same Eberron art since third edition. I mean, the fact that they repackaged third edition Eberron. I mean, I don't want to make this a play, but I could go on and on about
Yes.
Eberron.
And
But
I
yeah,
just want to
The
mention,
artwork was a big letdown.
if you check out
Yes.
our descent into Avernus, we spent about half the episode correcting and making it better, which Justin did go and then make. There, he made a product to do what we talked about doing in that review. So
Yes.
we like Wizards of the Coast, we like fifth edition, but I like to think that our reviews are still honest opinions.
Yes, exactly. We have our good ones, and this is a good one. I like
Yes.
this book.
All right,
I
so
invite anyone to go back and read through many of my write-ups on my blog. While I tend to be very generous with my praise, I do mention the parts that I have difficulty with.
well,
There you
Kevin, thank you so much for joining. Tom, thank you for as
Anytime.
always for hanging out with me. And you mostly organize these things. I just show up and then talk at the top, talk
Yeah,
at the end. We've got some more reviews in the queue that I'm excited to get to. But just throw it out to anyone listening. If you have products that you yourself would like that you'd like us to review, get in contact. I can't promise, but we will look into it. But if there's a product that you would like us to review because you just like to hear our opinions on, let us know that as well, and we'll see what we can do. So for myself, thank you for listening. Kevin, one more time to say goodbye and let people know where they can find you and any of your work that you would like for them to go check out.
Absolutely. You could always visit my blog for some of my past reviews and some other Dungeons and Dragons and other RPG tools at Melvin Smif's Geekery. Or you could find me online on Twitter at SharnDM.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And then Tom.
You can follow me at BezcarTom on Twitter if you want to catch what I'm talking about. And then you can catch our Ghosts of Saltmarsh streams on the RPG Academy's Twitch every other Wednesday. And also you can listen to me on the RPG Academy's Show and Tell podcast.
All right, my name is Michael. You can find everything I do at the RPG Academy. If you're not already in our Discord, please consider joining there. You got to hit me up on Twitter for an invite because we do keep it closed. It's a pretty small group, and we're talking currently Mandalorian Season 2, all the Disney stuff that was announced yesterday. My mind is exploding from the what if. It looks amazing. Loki looks cool. WandaVision is awesome. Fantastic Four! Oh my God! So please consider joining our community there and hanging out with us. But until next time, thank you. And remember, if you're having fun,
You're doing it right.
doing it right. Thanks and bye-bye.